A law professor actually wants black votes to count twice. You heard that right. A professor wants black votes to count double, all as Black Lives Matter begins to take over the Democrat Party. In this video, we're going to take a look at the latest proposal coming from our university elite that's frankly going to shock you. Why such arguments are indeed patently absurd, but more important, what such proposals are really pointing to, which is nothing less than a civil war from within the Democratic Party itself. You are not going to want to miss this. Welcome everyone, Dr. Steve here with you, ready to bring you our latest episode celebrating the inevitable collapse of left-wing globalism and the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. We'd love to have you as a regular part of this channel where each and every day we focus on optimism and encouragement in the midst of all the defeatist fake news nonsense spewed out by the mainstream media. Before we begin, let's give a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, and that's the Backup Solar Bank. Now, in the midst of the whole emergency situation that we found ourselves in, one of the best things that we can invest in for our protection when the lights go out is what's called a solar power bank. It's a backup power bank that's powered by the sun. It allows you to charge up to 2 devices at once, and you'll never have to waste money on batteries again. Now, the supply is limited, and this is the very last chance to get yours at a 20% discount before they sell out. So do not wait. Click on that link below right now and give you and your family the gift of power anywhere in the world. Click on the link below or visit backupsolarbank.com. That's backupsolarbank.com. You'd be glad that you did. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. We have a very interesting story, shall we say. A law professor from Washington Lee University in Virginia is actually advocating that black votes should count double. Okay, you heard that right. Black votes should be counted twice. They should be 200% of any other racial vote. Brandon Hasbrook, who's an assistant professor at Washington Lee University Law School, recently argued in a column for the radical leftist magazine The Nation that black votes should legally and officially be counted twice as a form of reparations for slavery, for decades of Jim Crow laws, and for what he calls the devaluation of black votes. Now, he makes the argument that the Electoral College, and this is a tired argument, but it's continuously appealed to by the rabid left, but he makes the tired argument that the Electoral College was by design a racist-inspired electoral system. The Electoral College supposedly benefits states that have a higher percentage of white voters, which in turn deliberately seeks to reduce the voting power of black people. And that's because the Electoral College originally was supposedly set up to protect slave states. And even when blacks overwhelmingly voted for Biden in states like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, he claims upwards of 95% voted for Biden. They still barely won the states. And so as a means of rectifying this devaluation of the black vote, this professor is arguing that black votes ought to count twice. Every black vote should be worth 2 of any other race's vote. And this is because somehow, according to this law professor, let that hit you. This is a law professor. According to him, white votes count more than black votes. And so doubling the value of the black vote will bring about supposedly electoral balance. Now, I find this piece very interesting, to say the least. A very interesting news story for a number of reasons. First, it's perhaps one of the most tortuously argued pieces I've come across of late. The logic of it, frankly, eludes me. I don't see how inserting radically left-wing buzzwords, racial epithets and idioms and descriptors, how that substitutes for clear and concise logic. It's frankly frightening, given that you would think lawyers are supposedly more capable when it comes to critical thinking and clear logical reasoning. This was beyond a disappointment, to say the least, when it comes to that. I mean, just the absurdity of asserting that electoral balance is achieved by deliberately weighting some people's vote more than others, that elections are made more equal by making them less equal, is the epitome of absurdity. So that's the first thing I found so bizarrely interesting about this article. The clear lack of critical thinking that emerges through this fog of left-wing banter and euphemisms. But more than that, he defers to this tired old argument that the Electoral College is only there to provide constitutional cover for slave states. Now, my namesake, Jonathan Turley, professor at George Washington University Law School, He's pointed out how forced this argument has become. He notes that there were a whole host of reasons for the Electoral College. Smaller states had a number of concerns about joining a federal system and surrendering the strong powers granted to them under the Articles of Confederation. Here's how Turley puts it. Quote, the Electoral College was designed as part of a Republican model of government. As Justice Robert H. Jackson wrote in his dissent in Ray versus Blair back in 1952, no one faithful to our history can deny that the plan originally contemplated that it was implicit in its text that electors would be free agents to exercise an independent and nonpartisan judgment as to the men best qualified for the nation's highest offices. States controlled the election of senators in a system that was a mixing of direct and representational democratic elements. In Federalist Number 10, Madison explained how this structure was designed to stop impulse decisions of an interested and overbearing majority and to process such raw public sentiments through representative figures. In Federalist Number 68, Alexander Hamilton saw the Electoral College as actually enhancing the power of voters by avoiding the pitfalls of party politics. The votes, after all, would select the electors. Moreover, these electors could bring mature deliberations to such elections through representative government. Hamilton paraphrased Alexander Pope in arguing, for forms of government, let fools contest. That which is best administered is best. Close quote. Again, the point here is that the historical record is clear that there were a whole host of reasons for designating an independent electorate, and the reduction of the reasons to the sole notion that it was all just about protecting slave states is categorically false. Another way of thinking about the Electoral College is that the Founding Fathers believed that it was just as important to win a number of regions as it was to win a number of residents. In other words, you can't just win people. You've got to win places. The president is not merely the president of mass urban population centers, but also rural areas and towns and villages. The president has to be elected by a wide swath of regions, not just residents. And that forces presidential candidates to take Iowa and Ohio just as seriously as they might take Los Angeles or New York. But this latest call to destroy the democratic notion of one man, one vote, I think signals something much deeper going on here. But first, I do want to personally invite you to our exclusive New Year's virtual conference on January 9th, 2021, to help you feel prepared for the year ahead. We're going to give you the information you need to remain strong and confident whatever may come, precisely because we're going to give you a long-term perspective that's going to give you the assurance you need to head into the new year with confidence and resolve. We have amazing guests lined up, and seating for the conference is limited. It's filling fast. And to make it even better, as of today, we've got our special Christmas time discount for you. But this week is it, so do not wait. Make sure to click on that link below and take advantage of our Christmas discounted registration special, which ends soon. And you'll be glad to know that a portion of the proceeds are going to Good Neighbors Home Repair. So not only are you going to be blessed in all this, but you're going to bless others with your registration as well. So do not wait. Click on that link below and register for our New Year's virtual conference today. All right, so what's really lurking beneath the surface here? Well, I think that this professor over at Washington Lee is exemplifying a tectonic shift that's going on from within the Democratic Party. There is, in many respects, a civil war going on in the Democrat, where the BLM and Antifa left is beginning more and more to challenge the old bougie neoliberal left. And we have to understand that this civil war, in broader terms, is actually a war between two philosophical movements, one known as modernity, right, on the one hand, the other post-modernity on the other. So modernity was a philosophical school of thought that was born out of the 18th century Enlightenment. And it involved the enthronement of scientific rationalism as the one true way of knowing the world, a one-size-fits-all form of knowledge for all peoples, for all times, all places. Modern people basically believe that pre-modern tribal, ancestral, monarchical beliefs, religious beliefs and practices have ceded their authority to forms of truth and reasoning that's now derived from autonomous human reason. And what we have to understand is that modernity is in many respects the philosophical roots of the liberal left, of progressive leftism. And this is why the left is always pushing the envelope. You know, transgender rights, LGBT rights, redefining AI, you name it. These new rights, it's just, they seem to invent out of thin air. They're always trying to be more modern. They're always disparaging the old and celebrating the new and the progressive and the brave new world. Here's the problem for Democrats and for leftist liberals. Global populations in general, and most specifically Western populations, no longer believe in modernity anymore. Or by and large, we've rejected modernity, and instead we've now become what scholars call postmodern, okay? So unlike modernists, postmodernists don't believe in a one-size-fits-all Marxist or globalist political and economic system. Instead, postmodernists tend to value the role of culture, custom, ethnicity, and race in cultivating our perceptions about the world and about life. And as a result, then, the world is transforming into two grand political options. Either we're going to re-embrace what scholars call civic nationalism, which is President Trump's vision for our nation, for the world, or we're going to more and more collapse into what we call ethno-nationalism or tribalism, which is the Black Lives Matter vision for the world. So civic nationalist movements are all seeking to restore the respective national sovereignties as over and against globalism by reaffirming border security, economic nationalism, protecting our jobs, our citizens, reaffirming our nation's culture, customs, and traditions that unite us as one people. So this is what we saw in the back-to-back victories of Brexit and Donald Trump back in 2016, what we're seeing particularly in Western Europe and the like. However, while civic nationalists defend the sovereignty of the nation state, which is generally polyethnic, multi-ethnic, ethno-nationalist tribalism is characterized by a turn toward a more homogenous racial and cultural makeup, where populations are increasingly balkanizing as they turn towards their own ethnic identity and loyalties based on kin and race as the basis for a postmodern social order. And so did you notice in this postmodern world, we're either becoming civic nationalists or we're becoming ethno-nationalists, right? So where on earth is there room for the progressive left? Well, the answer to that is very simple. There isn't any, right? A new conservative age is rising. Either you join the ethno-nationalists, but if you're going to do that, you're going to have some racial, you have to have some racial ethnicity, or else forget it. There's no place for you. Or you're going to have to join the Trumpian civic nationalist, which is polyethnic. It's one or the other. And we could already see the BLM activists calling white liberals to account as they more and more transform the Democrats into an ethno-nationalist party. And I think that in many respects, this is what this Washington Lee law professor represents. He represents the ascent of BLM activism in the Democrat Party. His logic is thoroughly racial, and his interests have nothing to do with fairness, but everything to do with politically franchising one race at the expense of, disenfranchising others. This is exactly what we can expect more and more of, and the Democratic Party transforms more and more into a party of BLM. The good news, like what we're seeing in Europe, the good news is the pattern seems to be emerging that the more the left drifts towards this kind of Marxist wing, the more it alienates the majority of the voting population. And so the center-right, populist right, has ironically been the main beneficiary of this leftward tilt. So I think this trajectory where politics are being increasingly redefined around populist sentiments, both on the right and on the progressive left, it's not only the new normal for the foreseeable future, but it's a new normal that inordinately benefits the political right. So as far as I'm concerned, hey, I hope BLM activists, academics continue to advocate for absurd notions like bestowing double the vote to certain races, because in the end, it only guarantees less votes overall for the political left. Now, before you go, make sure to like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. And you will definitely want to check out my latest video. I've just uploaded it on how there is a huge move to decertify the election coming out of Georgia. This is amazing. Actually, this is the biggest news we've seen thus far of the election. So make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.